Hello, this is Glen with Adventure Motorsports in the Service Department. Today we're going to go over taking out the drive belt on these new 858s. It's the first generation and they really haven't came out with anything like this, so we wanted to touch base on how you remove this. So obviously we want to get our hood off and our side covers to access this. We'll also want to pull our can. That's most things people know how to do. To do this also we're going to do a footwell. I've already removed some of the screws for the video, but we got this one here and this one down here. We want to be careful, there's a sensor going on right here as well. Okay, we got a bolt that's going in right here. I've already removed that bolt, but what we're gonna do is just give this a pull out. You don't have to go crazy, just a little snug will get you enough room to go ahead and remove this. Sometimes they get a little tight, and if you got a bunch of aftermarket accessories, they'll get even tighter. Swings out. Again, you want to be careful with this sensor. These wires, obviously, don't want to damage them. Set that off to the side. You also have this one under here that we'll need to pull out in order to get the belt out from the bottom. It's just easier at this phase to just knock it out. What you'll need for these are Torx bits. You need a T25 and a T30. All your plastics will be removed with the T25. This will slide back here. This guy will kind of fight you a little bit the first time. You can see right here there's grooves, and that'll slide back in. I'll cover that a little more when we go in installation. Now we got to our drive belt. This lower one, in order to take the drive belt, we don't need to mess with, and I wouldn't recommend messing with it unless you're in a shop and you have these special tools. Each one of these torque to 100 foot-pounds a piece. So it's kind of a big process to get to that. To remove the belt, we're gonna go ahead and take that 10 mil off the top. These torque to 25 foot-pounds, got it written right there. Now we're gonna use that T30 that I mentioned. We're gonna remove these back ones. These go to 96 inch-pounds, and they are having a little bit of Loctite. You wanna Loctite them as you go back together. Now these are kind of a cool setup because these don't require a tensioner like a traditional chain case or any of that. They're actually on an eccentric bearing on the back side. And as you rotate this, there's a hard plastic handle in the back. Sometimes they can be a little tight because of snow, grime, whatever. So if you need to pry on it, which might need to happen, just know that it is plastic and you don't want to get too aggressive with it. And you can see how that moved. Now we're gonna go up until it starts to lift this oil tank a little bit, just like that. If it feels like it stopped, then you can go just a little more. And that'll give you the room you need to go ahead and slide this belt off. All right, now we just keep walking this off. There we go, until our belt just falls right out of there. Now, you wanna make sure and have your rotation. You want to make sure that the arrows are going forward. If you put the belt on backwards, especially a used belt, this belt will not last long. So it is a directional, you need to make sure of that. And now we got our drive sprocket, simple as that. Going back together, here I can show you that if we move this, there we go. You can see that eccentric. As we're moving forward, it's moving up and back. And there's multiple holes. You have a 1 and a 2. And why they have that, if you wanted a larger pulley to change your gear ratio to your drive, that's what you would be changing. And as you get a larger sprocket, then you would go to those number 2 holes over here. But since we're running stock, we're gonna stay with the number 1s. But when you go back together, you're obviously gonna have that already as loose as it can go. You can kind of see it lift that oil tank a little bit. That's how we know we got all the way as low as we can get. We're gonna go ahead and put our new belt on. And the trick of this is to get it onto the pulley itself. And as you can see down on the bottom, you'll have to line those splines up down here. It's easier if you have someone on the other side kind of wiggling that secondary, because that's a direct shaft right to your driven clutch. All the second guy on the other side is doing is spinning that secondary or driven clutch to try to help align my splines on this side. You can do it by yourself, but it is much easier with 2 people. So now he has helped me align this and we got it centered on our splines. And literally all I'm gonna do is push up top and it's gonna go in. And there we are. We got our drive belt on and it's all splined. I'm gonna add just a little bit of Loctite on here. Dot, dot, not a lot. Go ahead and thread this in loosely, just to keep everything snug. We'll go back through and retorque it. Now we're gonna go ahead and move that bar back down. There we go. Okay, we can see inside here now. Line up our holes. We're gonna be spinning those until we can get them as close as we can. There it is. Now we're centered up on that. And our belt is tight. We're gonna go ahead and add some blue Loctite again to these. And we're gonna start these by hand. You cross thread those and you ruin them in the back. It's gonna take a lot of work to get to that back bearing. So it's better to just start everything by hand. Be real gentle. These snug up to 96 inch-pounds. It's not a whole lot of torque, hence why they want you to use the Loctite. Okay. Now we're gonna torque this 10 mil to 25 foot-pounds. If it starts spinning a lot, you can use somebody to grab a brake, but there's not a lot of torque there, so. There we are. And we're gonna run those T30s up to 96 inch-pounds. Okay. Back, hit our first one just to confirm. All right. Now we're gonna go ahead and put in all of our little covers. You wanna start with this one. And again, you wanna get this aluminum in that groove. If you don't, you're not gonna get it in and it's just gonna struggle with it. There we go. Line it up and we're gonna go back to our T25. This one right here. All right, the lower's in. Now we're gonna do our footwell. Again, take very careful with that sensor. Don't wanna cause more problems. And there, and if you pull that bar out, you do get enough room, and it gets you a lot more room. We're gonna knock it back in. We're gonna go ahead and put that bolt in. I like to try to get everything in these somewhat started. Then we'll go back through and retorque everything, make sure we got everything tight and we didn't miss any bolts. One thing I want to note is this guy. You want to make sure that this is safety wired or zip tied up out of the way. There's a little fastener here that you'll clip your wire into, and that'll help keep it. But I would also recommend putting a zip tie or maybe a couple around. I still need to snug that one, obviously. But then I will put a zip tie up on this corner, get away from the pipe and anything that can move. And then I'm gonna do one more right around this guy. There it is. We'll put our cam back in, put our springs back on, and hook our hood back up. You've just changed your belt. It's being a new unit. We wanted to discuss it and talk with people since it is on an eccentric. It's a different kind of bearing. They really haven't run anything like that. So I hope this is a good informational video for you guys, and y'all have a good day.